granules. These two do not have, they call them agranulocytes. So this, in monocyte, the shape of the nucleus is C-shaped. And they are 3 times of red blood cells. They're 3 times of red blood cells. Okay? I hope I made some sense. So that way, easy for you to recognize them on slides, on microscopic slides. Easy. Those are the characteristics. Here they are, the 3 different types: eosinophil, acidophil, red blood cells, monocyte. You've got to go by shape of, these two go by shape and size of the nucleus. These 3 do not go by size, but do not go by shape of nucleus. Those 3 go by what is in the cytoplasm.
So monocyte
What
has
type
a C,
of
right?
what type of what type of granules they have? Yes, monocyte is C-shaped. Okay, here is a bone marrow that have the stem cells. The stem cells differentiate to your granulocytes, agranulocytes, and of course lymphocytes, and then platelets. Another thing is platelets. It didn't come up when I was talking about it. And also stem cells differentiate to red blood cells. Do red blood cells in human have nucleus?
No.
No, it did not. We human evolved that our red blood cells to become very specialized. To do what? Transport oxygen, nutrient, and waste. It's not part of our immune system. It has nothing to do with our immunity. The other ones are part of our immunity. In other animals, it's not like that. The other animals, the white blood cells, of course, red blood cells have nucleus, and they contribute to some extent, possibly, to their immunity as well. They have white blood cells too. They have white blood cells as well. But we do have slides in here. It is a mixture of human blood, and I think it's a frog blood, or bird blood, one of them. And you see that they have nucleus. All of red blood cells have nucleus, okay, of the frog blood. Okay, different types of white blood cells. I list the functions for you. Please study them. Make sure you know them, word by word. Nothing out of the scope of the functions here, I will ask you.
You want to ask us?
And I think I will ask you these, but out of that scope. This list can be much, much longer. If you look up a physiology, anatomy textbook, or any other book, you might see the list is much, much longer than that. I don't know what that's trying to do. Not much longer, but there are debates as far as what is the function of red blood cell, what function of the basophil, but this is pretty much, this is responsible for your allergies, if you would, histamine, right? When you have allergies, you have too much histamine is bothering you, so you take medication, antihistamine. Anyhow, if there's any question here, this is the one, humoral immune response that we talked about it, immunity, you're responsible for. Kills parasites, we'll talk about parasites, but make sure you know these. Okay, what happened? You don't want to go away? He likes us. Okay, different types of white blood cells, blood composition, plasma, 90%, dissolved solids, dissolved gases, formed elements, I talked about that, red blood cells, erythrocytes, and leukocytes. Get familiar with these terms now. These are in your prefix suffixes. You should start studying them, the examples, right? Eryth means red, leuk, it means white, right? Cell fragments, thrombocytes is they asked me that during my oral exam. Amir, you wrote down thrombocytes in your paper. What does that mean? Luckily, I knew what it means. It means platelets, okay? They are not cells, remember? Platelets are not cells. Even, I can argue with anybody who wants red blood cells. I don't believe they're cells. They do not have nucleus, they do not divide, but they call them thrombocytes. It's been there, so let's just move on. Okay, the proteins in the blood are, these are the 3 proteins I'm hoping you would know. Albumin, it will work with your osmotic equilibrium. When you take physiology, I guess they will talk about that a little bit more. Globulins, that's what I'm going to talk about next in a few minutes. is part of your immune system, your antibodies. We have 5 major immunoglobulins, okay? And then finally, fibrinogen is for blood coagulation. When you cut yourself, these are the protein molecules go to the side and block the blood spill. Okay, cells of the acquired immune system, lymphocytes, B lymphocytes, they make antibody. T lymphocytes, they have surface receptors. T cells, subsets of CD4, CD8. These are the 2 cells that people who have HIV and they have AIDS, I guess the numbers go down. Okay, so the HIV is designed to destroy the white blood cells, and these are the white blood cells. Usually they destroy CD4 and CD8. And the CD stands for cluster of differentiation. T helper cells, T helper 1 and helper 2, natural killer cells, and mast cells. They are indiscriminative. You do not have discrimination. They go ahead and eat up any cells that comes, anything foreign that comes along the way, and they eat them up. Of course, all of those, we can study them. We can talk about them in great detail. This is the shape of antibody in your body. It's a Y shape, okay? And it's made up of 4 different type of protein molecules, 4 protein molecules. One of them is small. They call it light chain. The other one is larger, longer. They call it heavy chain. Another one larger, longer, heavy chain. And the small one, another small one, which is called a light chain. So you have 2 light chain and 2 heavy chain. Am I making sense? Of amino acids. These are all amino acids. You all know what I'm talking about? Amino acids. But they are all 4 of these are connected together by what? Disulfide bond. Disulfide bond in Bio 1, we study different amino acids. We have 20 amino acids. 2 of them have sulfur. 1 of them is what? No? Methionine is one, and the other one is cysteine. Is that right? They have sulfur. So you have cysteine right here and right here. They form a disulfide bond, and right here and right here they form a disulfide bond, and that's why these 4 protein molecules are connected together. They're not separate. They're connected together. And what happens? All of this is heavy chain. You see a constant region. They call it constant region. From here all the way to here is constant region. What is variable? What is different? The sequence of amino acids right here and right here. It's called variable region. How varied it is? It depends if a person is infected with Ebola. The sequence of amino acids right here, the sequence of amino acids is different than somebody who is infected with common cold. Am I making some sense a little bit? So based on this, they can identify the person has Ebola, HIV, or common cold. I hope I'm making some sense a little bit. I mentioned 3 diseases that you've heard about. Okay, so later on during semester, we will talk about other diseases. That's what this course, most of it is. You decided to go to medical school, pharmacy school, so we emphasize on a lot of diseases, infectious diseases. So you'll be familiar with them, which you might not hear in medical school. Yes?
How many nitrogenous bases are in the variable region?
How many protein molecules, you mean amino acids? It varies. I don't know. It varies. From one antibody to another antibody. HIV, for example, HIV could have 100 different in variable region, 100, and Ebola could have 120, 110. Okay, so anyway, and here again, this is damage. The acronym I made up, or I didn't make up. Somebody told me that a long time ago when I was a student, so it stick to my brain. Damage. It means we have five major different type of antibody. Those 5 different type of major antibody. One of them is Ig. They call it immunoglobulin. IgD, damage. Ig is the abbreviation for immunoglobulin. You remember we talked about that? I gave you the IgA, IgM, IG, A, I already wrote it. If I write it again, what's the use? G, and IgE. Those are the 5 damage. Make sure you know those are the 5 major. Usually the first antibody, when a person is infected, the first antibody shows up at the site of infection is IgM. And then later on, the body makes specific antibody, that would be IgG. Something to know extra for your info, for love of knowledge. For love of knowledge. The first antibody, I mentioned this, I might ask this, the first white blood cells that appear at the site of infection are neutrophils. You have so many of them. And then later on, then you have other ones. It depends if it is a parasitic infection. This one, if it is allergy type of thing, is this one. It depends. Whoever shows up. But the very first one, neutrophils are indiscriminative. They just show up and eat as much as they can. Okay, here's the antibody, the shape of it. We talked about it a little bit. Okay, this was one of your questions for the day. If you have an antigen, it could be a virus, it could be a bacteria, it could be fungi, it could be a parasite, it could be anything. So the first cell that comes in contact with that is called antigen-presenting macrophage. Antigen-presenting macrophage makes a molecule called interleukin. I spelled it out for you. Interleukin stimulates a T helper cell. Another interleukin is released, stimulates another T helper cells, another T helper cells, another T helper cells. Eventually, this interleukin right here, the red dot, stimulates the B cells. And the B cells differentiate to plasma cells and memory cells. Memory cells stays in your body for next infection. And the plasma cells, look, they have a lot of rough endoplasmic reticulum. And those rough endoplasmic reticulum are responsible for what?
Breaking down.
Making bio-1, rough endoplasmic reticulum have a lot of ribosomes to make what?
Protein.
Protein. Antibodies are made up of what? Protein, many amino acids. Amino acids make up antibodies. The bio-1 information is chasing you. Right? You remember that? Okay, so these antibodies attach to that antigen, whatever that is. Then this cell, phagocytic macrophage, engulf. This portion, right, is called cellular immune response. Up to here is called humoral immune response. But when this is engulfed inside this, that goes inside this cell, phagocytic macrophage, eat that, is called cellular immune response. And sometimes some infection, not infection, I guess I cannot call that, when we ingest a foreign material, pathogen, this antibody is not formed. These cells immediately, like killer cells, mast cells, can go in there and kill them and eat them right away without presence of antibody. So that would be, I guess, this diagram is showing you that cellular immune response and humoral immune response are connected together. They are not two separate entities. But again, I would say that the cellular immune response, cell-mediated response, sometimes without the antibody can function on their own as well. Here again, showing the same thing that I talked about. Blood vessels, we did touch up on it today. I guess, is that the last one? Let me go over and see if we did talk. Yeah, respiratory. Okay, let me finish up the blood and quickly the blood vessels. You do have a slide of blood vessels, is that right? Artery and vein and nerve slide. So the blood vessels, the artery and vein, under the slides, your veins are collapsed like this because they do not have much of a smooth muscle. And elastic fiber connective tissue. Your artery has a thicker portion of smooth muscle. So they stay nice and round in your slides. Artery, by definition, they always take the blood away from the heart. That's no exception. Vein always brings the blood to the heart. artery, in general, with one exception, always have oxygenated blood, the blood that has a lot of oxygen. Vein, on the other hand, has a lot of carbon dioxide in it. Not much of they call it deoxygenated blood, except there is one exception. Both of those that I said, they have exception. Vein have valves, arteries do not have valves. Why do they have valves? Because the blood does not go down. Vein has to fight gravity. Arteries don't. Just when the ventricle pumps, the blood shoots the brain, shoots the leg. It's so strong. It's so strong, so it can shoot up down. But the vein brings the blood to the heart. It's a hard task. And your veins are embedded between your skeletal muscle. So that way the blood can go to the heart. There is no pump to take the blood from your toe to your heart. We don't have a pump for that. How does the blood from your toe go to your heart? By moving, right? That's why I recommend run, exercise, do something. It's good for your here and everywhere else. And some of you know I have to study Amir. Yeah, study. But again, exercise has its own place as well. But anyhow, here are the differences between artery and vein. That could be an essay question. I have asked that in the past. What are the differences between artery and vein? There's 4 or 5. You should know them. Okay, here is a heart with all of its valves. As I mentioned, blood from upper portion of your body, above anything above the heart, from superior vena cava, comes to the right atrium. Right atrium, it is your right, not the way you're looking at it right. Your right, that's what they call it, right atrium. Very good point Patrick brought up today. I hope that's clear for the rest of your life from now on. And on the right side of your body is the right ventricle, so the blood from right atrium, and then from the bottom portion of your body is called inferior vena cava. Blood goes into the right atrium. And from right atrium through a valve called tricuspid valve, or another name for it is called right, and this is the right side of the body, right atrioventricular valve, another name. I like that better. But whatever you write down during the exam, I'll give you credit. Again, I'm referring to the exam. I'm sorry about that. But both names is correct. Right atrio, but you should mention, is that the right one or left one? I want you, on the model, I want you to recognize which one is right side of the heart, it is important, and which one is left side of the heart. So if you don't write down right, I cannot give you credit. You must write down right atrioventricular valve. And then from here, when the heart pumps, the blood is pumped into the lungs by this artery, deoxygenated artery. There is not much oxygen in there, it's mostly carbon dioxide. And there is a valve here, it's called pulmonary semilunar valve. Pulmonary semilunar valve. It goes to the lungs, from lungs come back, blood become oxygenated, blood comes back to the heart through the pulmonary vein, the only vein in the body that has oxygenated blood. This is the only artery, this is the only artery in your body that has deoxygenated blood. I hope I'm making some sense. Then the blood comes into the left atrium. From left atrium, you have bicuspid valve, or they call it left atrioventricular valve. Goes to the left ventricle. Look at how muscular it is, how thick it is, how thin it is. This only has to pump the blood to the lungs. This pumps the blood to the rest of the body, all the way to your brain and all the way to your toes. And then this one contracts. There is a valve also here, that's so the blood does not backflow. There are diseases. People have diseases that the blood backflows. All 4 valves possible that blood backflows. So there is a valve here. It's called what? Aortic semilunar valve. Pulmonary semilunar valve. Aortic semilunar valve. This is aorta. And then blood is pumped to the rest of the body. Your heart is actually made up of 2 pumps. One pump they both beat at the same time. One of them pumps the blood to the lung. The other one pumps the blood to the rest of the body. Two separate pumps. They squeeze at the same time. Okay? But anyhow, that's pretty much all I want you to know about heart. There is not much more than stroke volume. There is a whole bunch of other stuff. There is a chapter or two in physiology textbooks, anatomy textbooks, just for the heart and blood vessels. Here again, I'm beating the dead horse. I'm showing you another picture of it, so you can appreciate that and enjoy it. One last thing, you should know the difference between pulmonary circuit and systemic circuit. Systemic, anytime for the rest of your life you hear the term systemic, it means all over your body. That's systemic. Pulmonary circuit, it's just pulmonary means lungs. Pulmonary lungs for the rest of your body. Remember that. Okay, so when the blood is pumped between heart and lungs, it's called pulmonary circuit. I didn't say which blood vessels, what, and from lungs to the heart is pulmonary circuit. From heart to lungs, pulmonary circuit. From lungs to heart, pulmonary circuit. Am I making some sense? Systemic circuit is from heart to the rest of the body, except lungs, right? From rest of the body to the heart, it's systemic circuit. Have you heard somebody has systemic infection? It means all the body is infected. Okay, I think we talk about respiratory system next time, and I hope we did talk about everything that we need.